All right, guys, kind of a short video today, just a quick review of stuff that you've seen in the past and maybe using it in ways that you haven't done for a little while. So this video kind of goes along with, what are we on, homework 23, and it's all about using ratios and proportions, which a lot of you, I taught this clear back in 7th grade. You've been practicing these things. You've seen them before. We just want to refresh, make sure that you can use them in a few different situations. So the first one, most of this is going to be not a lot of notes, just a lot of examples, okay? So the first one wants us to write the ratio of our first measurement to the second measurement. So it wants us to write a ratio of the tennis racket compared to the table tennis paddle. Now, the way that they've given us the numbers, we would write 2 feet 4 inches as a ratio to 10 inches. Now, normally when we write ratios, we like our units to be the same. So this 2 feet 4 inches, I would change the 2 feet. That's just 24 inches. So 2 feet 4 inches, that's just 28 inches compared to 10 inches. We want our units to be the same. You could also write that as 28 over 10. Or you could write 28 to 10. This is the one that we use the most because that's the one that you can do math with. So that's kind of where we usually are going to use it in this class. Now, the measures of two supplementary angles are in the ratio of 1 to 4. What are the measures of the different angles? So I have a ratio of 1 to 4. And my two angles that make up this ratio are supplementary angles. What that means is that angle X and angle Y are going to add up to be 180 degrees. Now, with the numbers it's given me, my one angle is going to be 4 times as big as the other. And the trick to kind of figuring out these problems is when I add these two numbers together, I only get 5, but I don't want 5. I want 180. So the way that I get from 5 to 180 is I need to multiply by what? 36. If I do 5 times 36, I'm going to get 180. And that tells me what I need to multiply my numbers on the top and the bottom by. So my 1 over 4, if I times by 36, and if I times by 36, I'm going to end up with 36 over, what, 72, 144. Now my ratio is still 1/4. 36 is 1/4 of 144. But now I've got two angles that add up to 180. All right. So all I did was add these two together to begin with and see what I needed to multiply to get to my total 180. All right. And we're going to do that again here in just a minute. So number 3, a baseball team plays 154 regular season games. The ratio of the number of games they won to the number of games that they lost was 5 to 2. So they won 5 games and they lost 2 games. That was their win to loss ratio. How many games did they win? How many games did they lose? Well, this doesn't give me a total number of games. This just tells me they won 5 and lost 2. So those right there add up to 7 games, right? That's 7 total games. Out of 7 games, they won 5 and lost 2. But I don't want 7 games. I want 154 games. So I need to figure out what goes from 7 to 154. What do I have to multiply by? And that's going to be, what, 22? I've got to multiply by 22 to get from 7 games to 154. So the trick here is I take that 5 over 2 and I times both of them by 22. And on top, I'm going to get 110. And on the bottom, I'm going to get 44. So now my games add up to 154 total games, but my ratio is still 5 over 2. So that means they won 110 and they lost 44. Okay? Number 4, the measures of two supplementary angles are in the ratio of 5 to 7. This looks like the one that we already did. So if I have 5 to 7, I know that they add up to 180, but these two only add up to 12. So to get from 12 to 180, I'm going to multiply by 15, which means I need to do 5 over 7 and times the top and the bottom by 15. And that's going to give me, what, 75 on top. And on the bottom, we're going to get 105. So these two numbers add up to 180, but they have a 5 to 7 ratio. So those are the two numbers that I'm looking for. Now, this question just wanted the larger angle. So my answer would just be 105 degrees. That's my larger angle. Okay, a couple more examples and we'll wrap this up. Use an extended ratio. Now, an extended ratio just means we're comparing more than one thing to each other. We're not just comparing wins and losses. Maybe we're saying there were 5 wins, there were 2 losses, and there was 1 tie. So maybe you're comparing more than 2 numbers to each other. So in this example, the lengths of the sides of a triangle are in the ratio 4 to 7 to 9. So it's kind of like you're comparing 4 over 7 over 9. All right. Now the perimeter is 60 centimeters. So I know that all 3 sides should add up to 60. But when I add these 3 sides together, I don't get 60, I get what, 20? But I don't want 20, I want 60. So that means I need to times everything by 3. So I'm going to take that ratio, that 4, 7, 9, and I'm going to times everything by 3. So my new ratio is 12 to 21 to 27, right? Those are the lengths of my sides. So if you add those together, you're going to get 60, but they're going to match that original ratio. So the lengths of the sides of it, this is a new triangle, same idea. The lengths are 6 to 7 to 9. The perimeter adds up to be 88. Well, when I add these together, I get 22. To get from 22 to 88, I times by 4. So that just means I need to multiply all 3 of these by 4. So my 6, 7, 9, I times by 4, times by 4, times by 4. So I get 24 to 28 to 36. Those would be the lengths of my sides of my triangle. All right. So same idea. You just have 3 parts instead of 2. Moving on. Yes, a couple more problems. These ones, again, this is just quick recap of what you've done before. N plus 4 over 8 is equal to n over 4. This is just a proportion problem. And so remember, proportions, you cross multiply. So this becomes 4 times n plus 4. That's this times this one. And that's going to equal the 8 times the n. And then I distribute 4n plus 16 equals 8n. And then I want to move everything around, so I'm going to minus 4n from both sides and get 16 equals 4n. And when I divide by 4, then n is equal to 4. So don't forget how to solve a proportion. Cross multiply, solve for the missing variable. Okay. Now this one, which I think is this should be our last example. This one is probably a little bit new this year, depending on what happened last year and when COVID hit, as far as what you had learned and hadn't learned. What we have right here is a similar figure, okay? So basically what this similar figure says is this ratio right here, 4 over b, is going to equal the same ratio of the smaller one, 3 over a, okay? Now it also says, I can write this ratio in so many different ways, that 3 over 4 is going to be equal to a over b. Okay, basically you can compare any 2 parts. I can compare the 4 and the b, because those come from the same shape, and the 3 and the a come from the same shape. Or I can compare the 3 and the 4, because they come from the same side, and the a and the b. So in this in this problem, it wants us to find out what 4a is equal to, is what it's asking. So basically, it wants me to solve this proportion that I set up. So if I have 3 over 4 is equal to a over b, when I multiply these and these, I end up with 3b is equal to 4a. So there's my answer, right? 4a is equal to what? 4 times a is equal to 3 times b. Okay, that should wrap it up for this one. So what you should be working on today, you should be working on homework number 23. It's due next class period. We will go over some of these questions if you have them in class. If you don't understand something, we'll work on it in class. We'll answer those questions for you. But bring your notes. I like to see that you've done those before I answer your questions. And we'll see you in class.